Liberty Nation with Tim Donner.
Democrats on a crusade to impeach President Trump still have options available to them. Impeachment, of course, censure, expanding their current investigation, trying to force testimony from presidential advisors who've refused to testify. They could run the whole thing out past the new year, but none of them, not a one of them, would appear to be an attractive option. They may have reached the point of no return, where they're damned if they do impeach without a single Republican vote in the House and hand it over to the Republican-controlled Senate, and damned if they don't, because it will infuriate their Trump-deranged base. Joining us to weigh the Democrats' options is LibertyNation.com political columnist and a man who tells it like it is. No gloss or varnish in him. Joe Schaeffer. Welcome, Joe.
Thanks for having me, Tim.
I appreciate it. So, with those available options and given the circumstances as they stand today, what would you do if you're Nancy Pelosi?
Well, if I was Nancy Pelosi, I never would have let this get so far in the first place. She made her devil's deal to hold on to get back her speakership. And I think she's just letting the reins go a little bit. She's never really been controlling things as much as she would have liked. And she's let Adam Schiff run amok. She's letting Jerry Nadler run amok now. Those witnesses they had on the other day were just truly an embarrassment. If you're trying to even show a shred of nonpartisanship, which I guess they're not doing. So she should have put a muzzle on this a long time ago, and she didn't. So based on that, I think she has no choice but to see it through. And again, it's like she let the reins go, and it's an alpaca wild horses running right now, and she's not going to be able to get them back in the corral. Bringing out that professor, Pamela Karlan, who said when Trump got elected that he was an illegitimate president. What does she have to offer?
I mean,
his impeachment.
The backlog of things that these left-wing law professors have already said make a joke out of the idea that their testimony could possibly be impartial. I mean, the thing is, Joe, all they saw was the same thing we saw. They just watched TV and then got up there to spout their opinions. How does that constitute testimony?
Yeah, it absolutely doesn't. And you and I both seem to agree that Nancy Pelosi is too smart or too experienced politically to not know that.
Right.
So what does she see as the end game? I just see she's giving in to this politics of division, letting the anger in the progressive base just foment and continue to grow. I don't like it as a political strategy, but that's the way she's going. Maybe she's trying to ventilate it. I don't know. I think it's going to hurt the Democrats down the road immensely. But, down the road, Nancy Pelosi's not going to be around. She just wants to hold on to power just a little bit longer. And this is how she does it. This is how she does it.
Well, she's a powerful woman, but she is not powerful enough to overwhelm the Trump derangement in her base, which has been demanding impeachment literally from day one, from before day one. Now, let's move over to the Senate side, Joe. Assuming Trump is impeached, would Mitch McConnell be better off running a short trial with just a few witnesses and exonerating Trump quickly, which is inevitable, or turn it into a lengthy inquisition into Democratic indiscretions from spying on the Trump campaign all the way to the flagrant corruption of the Biden connection to Ukraine?
Well, I'm going to take it from a Trump supporter point of view and to say if we had competent Republicans in the United States Senate, then I would like to drag this thing out and expose the Democrats as much as possible and even bring Hunter Biden into it, all the corruption going on with our U.S. foreign policy. But can we trust Mitch McConnell and the Senate Republicans to do that? No, I don't think we can. So therefore, I think in the Republicans' best interest, it'd be to get this over with quickly, short trial, move on. We've all been waiting for them to do something to help enact Trump's agenda, and that isn't happening. So a long impeachment trial is going to even prevent that even more.
It seems to me that the crucial test for Republicans is whether they're willing to call Hunter Biden, because it's around him that the Ukraine story actually revolves. And that's what the phone call by Trump and Zelensky involved, was the corruption of Hunter Biden. So whether they call him or not will tell us a lot about whether they want a short trial or a long inquisition. In the meantime, Joe, what must the Democrats' presidential candidates be thinking right about now? Their agenda is being subsumed by impeachment, or maybe that's a good thing for them. What do you think?
Well, actually, I think it's a good thing that people aren't paying as much attention to them because of the impeachment thing, because they've been overexposed. It's been going on for 11 months now, really. The campaign started in January. We've had 5 debates, and they keep saying the same things over and over again. So, I think the best thing for the Democratic presidential candidates is if we stop thinking about them for a couple weeks until the voting gets really close with Iowa and New Hampshire. So in that regard, impeachment is a good distraction. Get them out of the way for a while. Maybe they can refresh themselves over the holidays. And who knows, maybe they'll have something to actually say when they come back in January.
Well, that's more optimism than I've heard you express in years, Joe, regarding the Democratic Party. But I can't let you go without asking you about the Democrat that bit the dust in recent days, the once promising but fast sinking Kamala Harris. She seemed like such a promising left-wing candidate. What happened?
I think what happened is it's sort of what I just said. It was amazing. I anointed her top tier status after that first debate, considering what the field was. She became top tier with that little takedown of Joe Biden on busing and all. And the question was that a politically savvy move on her part? Did that show political skills, or was it just more race baiting, pandering on the busing issue? And she became top tier, and then she had nothing else to say, it seemed. If you look at the second, the third debate, she was kind of quiet. She didn't really bring up a lot of points. So it's like, okay, you're on the stage now. The spotlight's on you. What do you have to say? And she really didn't have a heck of a lot to say. She didn't have, again, the specific policy agenda that you would hope that someone who spent all these years trying to develop a run for the White House would have come up with along the way. So she was really an empty vessel, and I think a lot of these other Democratic candidates are empty vessels. And so I'm not surprised at all what happened to her, and it's going to happen to a lot. I think it's going to happen to Elizabeth Warren a lot faster than people think, even though she does have more specific statements than Harris. But I think Warren is the next. These Democratic senators, they just don't have a lot of substance when you really add it up.
Well, Kamala Harris had trouble establishing a message, but even more so, Joe, I think she suffered from message confusion, which was alternating between being a social justice warrior one day and being the tough former prosecutor the next day. And that's a mix like oil and water in the Democratic Party. Thanks for joining us, Joe. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Joe Schaeffer, political columnist for LibertyNation.com.